Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Online Reviews and Google Tips, Marketing and Reputation Management 101 for ophthalmic administrators. Why is that such a hard word, Evan? I say it almost every day, but I still stumble over
Because
it.
the second and third letters are PH.
Yeah. Well, you think a guy with the name Horchevsky might be able to say that word, but um, so my name is Ron Horchevsky. I'm a solutions consultant with Raider 8. I'm going to introduce Evan shortly. Evan's going to be doing the second half of our webinar today, but he's the CEO of Raider 8. I was a former CEO of Concord Orthopedics, so I've worked in a large medical practice where I was actually a client of Raider 8 as well. I've served as the president of the American Alliance of Orthopedic Executives, and I served as a board member with that organization for approximately 7 years. So what Evan and I want to talk to you today about basically is how to drive patients to your practice. This is something that is incredibly important to some administrators and their physicians. And frankly, it's sometimes not that important to some administrators who might say that they have all the patients that they need. But Evan and I both feel pretty strongly that you need to have a strong online reputation when you are trying to attract patients and when you're not trying to attract patients. And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's pretty simple to know that if you want new patients, you want to have a strong online reputation. That's a kind of a given. If you feel like you have enough patients, you still want to have a strong online reputation for a number of reasons. One, you want to assure your current patients that they've made the right choice in picking your practice. And also, if you have all the patients that you need, and there's a long waiting list for your practice, and your competition sees that you have a fairly weak online presence, it actually presents as an opportunity for a competitor to move into your area. So it's a great way to kind of scare off competition who might not want to throw an office in your area if they see that you sense that you're really strong in that area. A couple of other things to think about when you're thinking about your online reputation. You do want to attract new patients to your practice, but you also want to be able to answer the question and prove that you have quality in your practice. Now, the answer, it's very difficult to actually define quality in healthcare. There's patient-reported outcomes. Sometimes if you're doing procedures, they can be infection rates and things like that. But you want to be in a position where you can say, one of the major elements that can define quality is basically, how strong the public has reported their experience on working with your practice. So if you have a strong online reputation, that translates to quality. And when you're sitting with a hospital system or you're sitting with an insurer who's trying to tell you that they're going to pay you less money because of quality issues, you want to be able to prove that you do not have a quality issue. So I always say the time for collecting quality information is before you need it. When somebody questions your quality, you want to have an answer right there. So patient-reported outcomes, I think, is a great tool to have, but also having a strong online reputation is something that you can use. I have used, as I was a client of Raider 8, I have used the online reputation for my practice and physicians as a negotiation tool with insurance companies to get higher rates, and I've done that successfully. Another piece, spending a little bit extra time on goals here, but another thing to think about is recruitment. So there's many different levels to recruitment, but when you're thinking about recruiting new providers to your practice, whether they're physicians or advanced practitioners, you want them, they're going to look up your practice online. If you have a strong online reputation, then that translates into a practice that they're going to want to work in. Also for the recruitment of staff. So if you have a weak online reputation, it may give pause to some employees who otherwise might not want to be associated with your practice, even though it's an outstanding practice. So this isn't a question about whether your providers are good or not. We want to just convince the patients who are looking at your practice that there's an accurate representation between the quality of your provider and their report online. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I did not know when I was an administrator in a medical practice. I just didn't know this until I joined the Raider 8 team. You know, one of them is the importance of the Google My Business profile. Now, I swore I was going to change this slide because it appears on the left here. But when you do a Google slide, when you do a Google search, right, the Google My Business profile appears on the right side of the screen. And this is an example of one for Dr. Nam, who's an ophthalmologist. And how was that, Evan? That was pretty good.
That was much better.
Okay, I'm working on it.
Ophthalmologist.
Ophthalmologist. So this is the Google My Business profile for Dr. Nam. It's a complete listing. It's got pictures here of Dr. Nam, of her practice. It's got the map. It's got her name. It's got all the links, so you can go to the website, get directions. You can call the practice. And probably most importantly, it's got the quality and the quantity of online reviews, right? So you can click on the reviews here and sort them by most recent. It's important to Google how recent the reviews are as well. But seeing 5 stars with 315 reviews, I think there's not a patient in the world who would say, I'm not sure if I should go see Dr. Nam. So I just want to make a very important point that 77% of your patients are looking up your practice or your providers before they're booking an appointment with your practice. So they're looking them up online, they're seeing the online scores, and the average online score for a physician is 3.6. That's pretty low. I know Evan and I have talked about it. We wouldn't go to a restaurant if it had a score of 3.6. So to us, we take it personally when good physicians are being misrepresented with their Google reviews. So I do want to just emphasize that 77%, this is an article that appeared in the Wall Street Journal that said 77% of patients are looking their provider up online before they go to see them.
And you could find that article. If you just type in 77% of patients search online and then WSJ for Wall Street Journal, you'll see that article comes right on the top.
Thank you, Evan. Okay, so we have a poll. And Mark's going to do this poll for us. We're going to answer this question. Is your group actively soliciting patient feedback today? So Mark, I'm going to let you take that poll away.
This is just surveys, right? Are you
This is just a survey, yeah. So you can click on the answer, and then we'll present the results. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes. So I would imagine a number of the people on this webinar are going to be going to Las Vegas in the next week. I'm excited to be going to Las Vegas and hopefully meet some of you there. If you have any questions, Mark will be there as well. So I'll be there. Mark and Sam Gaines will be joining us.
All right, so we got a yes or no question. What do the stats look like, Mark? Usually it comes in a little over 50% yes. Other webinars we've done. There we go, 68. Great, that's great to hear that.
68% yes, wow, that's fantastic.
Yep.
Wonderful. Good job, everybody. So it's really important how that's being done as well. So Evan's going to touch on that a little bit as we move through the webinar. But I do want to emphasize another important point about these Google My Business profiles. And we've done this statistic at Rater 8, and we've learned that 7.7, so that the Google My Business profile is visited 7.7 times more often than the home page, than the bio page, and the location listings for your practice's own website. So that is really a remarkable statistic that really indicates to us that your Google My Business profile is really the new homepage for your practice. Now, we talk about a homepage, and we typically think of the page that when somebody goes to visit your website, that page that pops up, and that's really what it is. But 7.7 times more people are seeing this Google My Business listing. It's incredibly important real estate for your practice, and you need to give it the attention that it deserves, and make sure that you have strong online reviews for all of your providers and all of your locations. And again, I'm going to say it again, 7.7 times more people are seeing those Google My Business profiles than those pages on your own website. So give them the attention that they deserve. So here, this is a kind of a messy slide, but it really talks about all the different places that we put our marketing efforts, and they're all good. right? They're all good, and I've done them all myself. You know, I've brought pizza to practices and coordinating talks with our specialists to referring providers, and gone to fairs and set up tables and given away some neat stuff. You know, we sponsor local athletic teams, or you know, spent a lot of time building content on our own, on my website, or on Facebook, and then we've advertised through radio, television, with internet ads. But all the thing you have to realize is that all of these activities are going to drive patients to your website, and that very few people will go to will just go to a browser and just type in, you know, www.raider8.com. They type in Raider 8 into Google and they hit enter, and then they click on the website link on the Google My Business profile. So they're going to see your online reputation. So I think it's important for you to understand just how important it is, because all of your advertisement, all of your relationship building is going to direct people to your website. And you want, when they get there, when they get through your Google My Business profile, you want them to have a good experience. But speaking about the patient experience, you know, this is really kind of the bread and butter of marketing, right? You want to market your patient experience. You want it to be a positive experience. So online reviews and patient testimonials are really the best way to give a prospective patient an understanding of what their experience will be like when they come to visit your practice. If they think it's going to be better someplace else, then, you know, they'll go there. The question that I like to talk about, though, is like, when does the patient experience start? So this is you know, we often put so much emphasis on here seeing the provider, but they've already experienced so much in terms of working with their insurance company to get a referral, scheduling the visit. So they've contacted the office to schedule the visit. They've had the experience of driving to your practice and parking in the parking lot. You know, they've checked in for the appointment, so they've had interaction with your staff. They've sat in the waiting room and seen how other people are being treated, and then they interact with the medical assistant when they're brought into the room. They're asked a lot of questions. So these are all formative experiences, and these are all, you know, if they have a negative experience along this arrow, it doesn't matter what happens when they see the provider. So we want to have all of our staff on board with outstanding patient experiences, and understand that the patient experience doesn't start when the doctor walks into the door, and that at some point in the process, patients are going to look up the provider online, especially if they're going through this process and they're maybe sitting in the waiting room and they're like, wow, this is not what I expected. Let me do some research on this practice. You want them to see great information, because it really will help shape the experience for that person. And I like to think of this as a pyramid. Okay, you've got the patient on top. You want to build preference, right, through all these experiential items that we're talking about. And a lot of it is built on the online presence. So to me, the online presence is the foundation to a strong patient experience, and it can really set the tone for the visit. And just the last point I'll make before I turn it over to Evan is that, you know, inaction is really the best way for you to help your competition. I think a lot of people decide, hey, you know, I'm afraid to build online reviews because I think I'm going to get a lot of negative reviews. So I would really encourage you not to let the fear of bad online reviews prevent you from doing what you need to do to build the online reputation for your practice. What we've experienced, and Evan will tell you this even more, is that when you make it easy for happy patients to leave online reviews, they'll leave them all day long, and the number of bad reviews won't change, because unhappy patients are going to find a way to do it, whether you make it easy or not. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Evan Steele. So Evan is the CEO and founder of Raider 8. Before he worked with Raider 8, he was the founder and CEO of SRS. It's a PM and EMR system that was very common throughout mostly orthopedics and ophthalmology, correct?
Yes, both. Yep.
Yeah, and he was also a former practice administrator, so he knows what it's like to be on our end of the spectrum. So, Evan, take it away. I'm going to stop my share, right?
Okay. Yep. So I'll share my screen here. By the way, my practice administrator experience is 9 years in an ophthalmology practice.
Oh, come
That's
on,
why
you
I
got
know
to
how to
say it
pronounce
right.
ophthalmology. So for folks in the audience today, I've sat in your shoes, and I know what it's like running a busy ophthalmology practice, with multiple doctors and multiple offices. So this next section just talks about Google My Business and kind of getting under the hood. Ron went through why it's so important. Now, I would like to talk about some of the strategies that you could use to maximize the level of Google promoting your business, your practice over other similar practices in your competitive area. So the first thing is just the kinds of Google searches. There's actually 3 of them. We categorize it as 3. There's a physician search and a practice search. So physician searches, Ron showed this doctor. If you go to Google, just search Julie Nam MD, this is what comes up. And, this is an iPhone. It takes up the whole screen. This is the only thing the patient sees. And the first thing they see is the Google My Business profile. When Ron said before, Google's the new homepage, like they're not even on your homepage, and they're already looking at images, star ratings, directions, maps, office hours, COVID-19 information. It's already, the patients might not even get to your website because all the information they need here, especially the phone calls, the directions, the office hours, they're right here, right on Google's results here when I search for the doctor. And then there's a practice search. So I look for Florida Eye Specialists and Cataract Institute. And we see a full page here. And where does the eye go? So, of course, there's the first listing here, which is the practice, but my eye goes to here because this is colorful. It has pictures. It has stars. This is a well-reviewed practice. And again, like Ron said before, you have billboards, print ads, radio spots. You spend all this money advertising and getting your brand out. As soon as someone searches for your practice, you want them to feel good about it. So nice Facebook reviews and a nice Google profile with professional pictures. Sometimes we see the side of a building with a dumpster instead of a nice picture of the building. It's a little bit of work to get a nice picture on here. Sometimes you have to wrestle with Google, but it's worth it because, again, you wouldn't put a picture of a dumpster on your homepage of your website, and you certainly don't want it here because, as Ron said, these listings here are viewed on average 7.7 times more than your actual core pages of your website. So those are 2 types of searches here. And we have the local search. So this is the real important one. These are the ones that help you gain a lot of patients. And, Google's made a mini industry out of this. And it's when you search for an ophthalmologist near and then a city. You could do near me, and it'll show you results from where you're sitting now at your desk, or you could put in a city and a state. And same thing, the first thing that shows up is, the Google results. We call these promoted listings. These are the listings that Google is suggesting to patients, and we want to appear here, right? And we want to look good. It's just to show it on desktop, ophthalmologist near Washington, D.C. You get the map and then 3 suggestions. There's more. You can click view all, but a lot of times, you know how it is with Google. Anything that's below the fold on a second page, or you have to click to get to, that's the middle of nowhere. That hardly gets visited. I don't know the exact numbers. I think it's 90% of people stay on the first page. So you want to appear in this. We call this the 3-pack. Used to be years ago the 7-pack, but Google reduced it to 3 promoted listings right here. So quick poll. This is a little more involved, and I really hope everyone will participate because I think it's a fascinating poll. If you're sitting at your desk and you just type now, best ophthalmologist or best eye doctor or best LASIK surgeon, whatever your practice is, or if you specialize in glaucoma, retina, best retina surgeon, near me, type that search in Google, go ahead, and Mark's going to put up the poll. We're going to ask you how many times do you appear in that 3-pack? So you're going to ignore the ad. There's a Google ad. Mark, you want to put up the poll? There's a Google ad, and either your practice or your doctors aren't going to show up, or you're going to show up once, twice, or you're going to fill up all 3 slots in that Google 3-pack. Because obviously, filling up all 3 slots, we call that domination of the 3-pack, and great to see if some people have that. Wait a minute. This one will
Let's
give you
get
a
some
few more
predictions
seconds.
going.
All right.
I'm going to Las Vegas, so we got to put some money on the line here.
I think the
Okay.
2 and the 3 is going to be much less than 50%. So 0 and 1 will be 60%.
Okay. I will.
Are you over? Are you over or under?
I'm gonna. Oh wait. Okay. So 60%. I'm gonna go under.
0 and 1.
I
So
have
more
faith
people are
because if
skewing.
there's that many people collecting surveys, I think it's going to be a little bit better.
And it also depends on the market. If you're in a if you're right in the middle of Raleigh, Durham, in New York City, you're much less likely to pop up than if you're in Toledo, Ohio, right? It's a smaller market. You have a higher chance of coming up in the searches. Okay, Mark, do we have enough?
So 45% of folks have voted. I don't know if we want to maybe give it another minute. This is really valuable data, I think, for everybody to see. I know in my practice, I can tell you that we dominated the 3-pack, and I think it made a big difference in our market.
Okay, well, we got more than half now, so maybe it's a good time. And here's drum roll. 58%, 0-1. I said 60, so I was, and you said over. So don't go to Vegas.
I said under.
Oh, you said under. Okay, so you won there. So that's good. I mean, the 21%. I'd love to know if someone could just chat your practice name. It's great to see that there's four groups that are dominating that 3-pack. So great poll. Thank you for participating in that. But most are, again, more than half are just 0 or 1, and we want to address that. So let's talk about that a little bit. So here's an example of, I just type ophthalmologist near Boston, no local search domination. There's 3 different practices here. Here's a doctor from this practice, another practice, and a New England Eye Center. So there's no domination. And who's going to get my click? So, as a patient, what am I going to do? I see, oh, New England Eye Center, got 17, 4.4. Not great, not a lot of stars, but better than everyone else. This only has 1 rating, so I'm going to discount that. Me as a patient, if I'm looking for an ophthalmologist near Boston, I'm going to click on the website link of this practice and go visit this website. Plus, I see Tufts. My daughter went to Tufts, so I definitely click on this one because I like Tufts. So that's an example of no domination, and those who are here don't have great profiles. So actually the patient, if I were a patient, I might want to check further and click view all and search for some other options that Google will promote. There's other kinds of searches. There's the best search. So when I click search best ophthalmologist near Washington, D.C., we see, look what Google does. Google actually starts going through the comments. They see here we say Google crawls the comments and looks for keyword matches. And these are real valuable searches. We call these like long tail searches. So not a lot of people might be searching for glaucoma surgery or retina doctor near me or cataract surgeon near me or LASIK surgeon near me. But to the extent that there are some, and the patients mention that in their comments, so the patient says, I had a great LASIK surgery procedure with Columbia Eye Associates, right? Having that word LASIK in the comments, in the reviews that the patient posted, Google is going to promote that and be more likely to promote that listing. Just like when I type in best, see the word best here. The website mentions top ophthalmologist. Here's a nice comment about been my ophthalmologist since the mid-'80s. But Google's promoting as the first one has the word best in the comments. So what's the lesson here? The more reviews you have, not only does it look good, so who's going to get my click? I'm going to click on 4.8 stars, 383. This 4.9 is a little higher, but it's only 16. I'm going to click here, and he's the best. I'm going to go right to this website. So by having 383 reviews with hundreds and hundreds of comments, you're bound, with so many reviews, you're bound to get more keyword matches. So if this doctor is a glaucoma doctor, and I say glaucoma doctor near me, this practice or this doctor is more likely to come up. So that's the importance of having lots of reviews. There's other reasons, but one of the main importances is so you kind of stuffing your listings with keywords, and Google will promote those. Perfect example here. Here's an example of best ophthalmologist in Cape Cod. There's no winners. There's no domination. There's no winners here. I got 6, 3.7, no reviews, 7, 4.4. I'm going to probably click view all. This is just an opportunity. If you see this, when you search, this is an opportunity for one of these practices to just quickly start building reviews and just kind of build a lead against your competitors, one which you hope they'll never catch up to. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be dominating, or this, one of these practices here shouldn't be dominating the search. And by the way, Google has articles about how they promote these listings, and certainly those keywords we just talked about are important, but the quantity, quality, and recency, so the number of reviews, the star rating, and how recent the last rating was. Was it 2 days ago, or was it 2 years ago, right? Those variables all help Google promote your listing. So you want to create lots of reviews with lots of keywords, high star ratings, high number of reviews, and have that recency factor in there as well. What does a great online? We just showed some examples of not great online image. Here's a great online image. If I look for an ophthalmologist near Bloomfield, New Jersey, this practice and this doctor, they're both at the same, you see the same address, they're the same practice. Here's a competitor. There's no way I'm going to click on this 3-star 20 review listing if I'm searching for care. I'm going to click on Dr. Gould or this practice and click on the website. I see the 4.8 here. Let me check him out. So I click and I'm off to the website, and this practice has gained a patient and not Herbert Glatt. Glatt's lost that opportunity for the patient just because Google's promoting of these 2 listings. By the way, we have chat area. There's a Q&A button at the bottom in the panel. If you have questions, you can start typing them. If so we'll answer them all at the end. So you could either click Q&A or type chat. Last poll. We only have 3. I should ask a poll, Ron. 3 polls too much. But here's the 3rd one. Are you actively building Google reviews for your doctor's offices or both? So remember, we find this important to do both because here's the office and here's the doctor, right? If they just built reviews just for the offices and not the doctors, then they're less likely to fill up or dominate this 3-pack. And a lot of practices do vice versa, right? They'll build the doctor reviews, but not the actual location listings for the practice. So we like both. This is anonymous, so we have no idea who's answering what. Let's do this last poll. I think we'll have about 50% the first 2.
Okay. And the highest will be for what?
Locations.
Just for locations. Okay. I think we got a pretty good, I'm going to go with both locations and doctors because I think this is pretty, oh, there we go.
Got a savvy group. Very
Savvy
nice.
group.
Very nice. Okay, good poll. So
yeah, very
now
interesting results.
I'm going to, yeah, more so. I think, well, ophthalmology is they're very marketing focused and versus other specialties. They want to get LASIK. They sell eyeglasses. They want to get the LASIK patients. So I just feel like ophthalmology is a little more savvy on the marketing side. So I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds here, and it's important stuff. So, just bear with me, but I think it's really important that we go through these. So this is a Google My Business scorecard. So this is something Raider 8 puts together for all of our clients, or even prospective clients. We'll put one together for you if you'd like. We have it's not manual, we have an automated process that takes this information. So it looks at all the doctor listings and all your, down here at the bottom, the 3 office listings. And this is all made up data here. So we have all the listings, and then we show, we have a score, the quality of the listing. So is the Google listing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get a 5 score. And the way we do that is we look at all the elements of a listing. And why are we looking at all these elements? Because Google looks at all the elements. Google's going to promote listings that are complete. They're like, they're Google My Business. When you search for doctor near me, they want people they want patients or customers to have a listing where they could get one-stop shop, get all the information they need. So that includes star ratings, the quality of the quantity, and we talked about recency. So for example, this one has 2.3 stars, 3 reviews, and 210 days. So that means the listing actually says the last review was posted 7 months ago, 210 days ago. So these are weighted heavily because Google talks about the quality and quantity and recency. So that's basic reputation management. You should be building your reviews here and getting lots of them across doctors and locations. This category of listing, I can't tell you how many times I see instead of ophthalmologist or optometrist, doctor. Okay, and probably a lot of you out there have that. Listings where the doctors are categorized just as a doctor rather than an eye care center or an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. And so when a patient searches for ophthalmologist near me, there's 0% chance that this doctor will show up be promoted by Google and show up in that 3-pack. So that's low-hanging fruit. And then we have other fruit, not as important as the category, but a little bio description. It's an opportunity to describe the doctor and the practice and have some key words in there. I'll show you that, by the way. Julie Nam. We go to the bottom. Here's the bio description. Right? And this is where you can put in keywords. You do LASIK. So when patients search, Google, we hope, is crawling these and using those to promote listings. And then we have a website link. Is the listing owned? You want to own your listing and control it. That's one of the most important things. Does it have office hours? And does it have a link for appointments? A lot of people say, well, I don't have an automated online appointment booking. You could just, like this practice does here, you could simply have a link to your appointments, your main page, or even your contact us page if you don't have a special appointment page. So once those are complete, like this listing down here is complete, you want to build the reviews and get your score up as high as possible. This practice in New York City, where I used to work at, this is their scorecard. This is a PDF file. This is in the software. We update it weekly. And you can see they have an absolutely perfect online image. All doctors and locations have 4.9 out of 5 stars, hundreds of reviews in some cases. Everything's categorized, and all elements of the listing are complete. So this is where you want to be. And when Google sees this, and then in their algorithms, and they see this, they're going to want to promote these listings more vigorously than these listings. So that's your first order of business, to clean this up, or have a company like a third party. Raider 8 does it. Other companies do it. Have a company clean it up for you. And a lot of you marketing folks, owning the listings and doing all this is like herding cats. Like herding cats, so it takes a lot of work, and a lot of marketing folks aren't expert. If you're an administrator of your practice and you see a lot of red, don't be angry with your marketing director. Just understand that it's like an art and rather than a science, and takes a lot of work. So it's just something that most marketing folks aren't expert in. No fault of the marketing folks. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send around. Someone just asked. We will send around a copy. So how do you build an online image? And make it balanced, because it's not just about Google, right? Google, in their algorithms, they even look at a practice's or a doctor's Facebook Vitals, Health Grades, WebMD. They look at other review sites to help with their algorithms, right? So it's not just Google. And on the first page of search, if I search for Julie Nam, I see this, but also very obvious. I see a Raider 8 reviews page, 1,295 reviews. I see Health Grades. I see Vitals, U.S. News. WebMD is because Vitals was acquired by WebMD, and now WebMD is coming up more and more on the first page of search. So these other review sites are important too, especially if there's a red flag. I'm not saying to have 5 stars and hundreds of reviews like Google, but you don't want to see 3.8 here. It's just see a 3.8 here. A patient kind of peruses, goes down and sees 3.8. It's just a reason for them to click and find out what's going on with the 3.8. Why is this happening? Okay. So part of a balanced, part of the strategy is to build a balanced online image with a focus on Google. So this is where, reiterate where what we do things a little bit differently. You'll see a lot of that. Most of you out there probably have the patient controls where they're posting the review. You'll send an invite, patient, hey, please, short survey, please post a review, and then they'll choose from some icons like Google Health Grades, Facebook, Vitals. What we don't want to give that control to the patient, because the patients don't know where you need your review most. So, for example, let's say Andy Archer sees a patient. Where do I send the patient? Which review site? So the patient gets a review invite. Google, they could certainly use some reviews here. There's only 3, but it's 5 stars. Okay, great. So we're going to route a fair number of patients to Google just because we're so far away from our quantity goals. We only see 3. WebMD, 4 stars, 29. Seems good, not as important. I'm probably not going to route any patients here because we have 29 4 stars. I really need to build the Google. Vitals is missing for this doctor, but here's something that we do not want, right? Remember I showed this. We don't want to see Vitals 2.7, Health Grades 2.7, 12 reviews, okay? So you want an algorithm to say, this is where there's a problem. We're going to send a disproportionate amount of patients to Vitals until we get this over certain goals or thresholds, whatever the practice wants. Usually we like to put that minimum threshold at 4 stars. Also, if this Dr. Chase sees a patient at the Raleigh location, where do we send the patient? Do we send the patient to the Raleigh location listing, or do we send it to Dr. Chase's personal listing? Well, Dr. Chase has 2 stars. He's going to get his Google listing is going to get almost 100% of the redirects where we'll send the patients to. Okay, versus let's say this doctor here, 4.726, decent Google profile. So he'll get some redirects to his personal listing, but also that frees up some redirects to send the patient to the Raleigh listing. Okay, so you kind of need the software, right? You have look at all the listings we have, a lot of listings, a lot going on. We just want to make sure we create a balanced online reputation, and we want to control that. We don't want the patient to control it. We want to send the patient to the right review site. One last thing I'll point out, and this is of utmost importance if you take anything away from this call today. Each doctor and ophthalmologists are almost exclusively, every one of them go to multiple offices. Each doctor should have their own Google listing, each office at which they practice. All right, think back to this kind of search here. If this is a satellite office, it's not even populated. Let's say it's an outreach or a satellite office. And if a patient's searching for eye doctor near me, your practice name will come up, but you want to make sure the doctor has a listing so at least they stand a chance of coming up and dominating this search. We see so many times with satellite offices, the doctors don't have the listing. And then the practice appears and other practices and other doctors appear here, and you lose that domination. So there's no reason not to have separate listings for each office at which each doctor practices. Also, from a patient's perspective, if I'm out in a far-off Garner, North Carolina, in a satellite office, and a patient sitting there gets the name of the doctor and types the doctor's name, if a listing comes up, it's great. They'll see, oh, the doctor has an office here. Whereas if no listing shows up for the doctor in that satellite office location, when a patient searches for a doctor near me, an eye doctor near me, the patient might say, oh, this doctor doesn't even see patients in my area. Let me look for another doctor on my list. So lots of good reasons to have separate listings for each doctor. And I think that's table stakes. Got to do it. These scorecards here, if you want to do it, Mark's going to just put a link in the chat now. If you want to sign up, we'll prepare a scorecard, and one of our solution consultants will sit down with you and just kind of go over it. It's just some insights, just seeing it. Even if you're using a system, it's great to see these scorecards, and especially these kind of scorecards where you're looking at Google Health Grades, Vitals, WebMD, and seeing how balanced everything is around the web for your doctors and your office locations. So hopefully you'll take us up on that, and the chat you'll see that in the chat. Thanks, Mark, for posting that link. One other thing to mention is, so we covered a lot, right? We covered the listings, having multiple listings for doctors at multiple locations, and we also covered all the elements of the listings and what Google looks at to promote listings. There are two other things that are important. One is you should respond to reviews. Right? Google likes businesses where you respond. So even if someone gives you a 5-star review, which should be most of your reviews, even if you say, thanks for the 5-star feedback, we really appreciate it, or awesome feedback, thanks a lot. You respond, which is very easy to do. Google wants to promote businesses that do a better job engaging with patients or customers, right? So to the extent you have comments, Google's going to give you that preference and put you higher up in those 3-pack search results. One other thing that, again, easy to do is I have this little thing. It's called GMB Spy. It's a Google Chrome extension. And if you go to maps.google.com and you look up the listing, you could click on the little thing on the top right of your Google Chrome browser, and it'll show you all the categories. So this is an eye care center. Remember I talked about categories? You know, and how some people are doctors or optometrists or ophthalmologists. Well, this listing here is for eye care center, but you get up to, Sherry, how many subcategories do we get? I think there's 10. So you could get 10 subcategories. So why not add? They have eye care center, but LASIK surgeon, ophthalmologist, optometrist. So this helps if patient searches for optometrist near me or LASIK surgeon near me, you're more likely to come up and be promoted in the search. And an example of that outside of ophthalmology is if I go vegan restaurant near me, notice it says vegan. Why is this vegetarian? Maybe because it has vegan in the name, but you'll notice you'll see vegetarian. But this restaurant likely has vegan as a category, a subcategory. So Google promotes that listing because they find a match. So go get, if you can, get a GMB Spy Chrome extension and go to maps.google.com and see what Google shows here. And you should have as much as you can. Unfortunately, they have LASIK eye care center. They don't have glaucoma surgeon. They don't have retina surgeon. They don't have a lot of those subspecialties. I don't even think they have cataract surgeon, but they do have these categories, which everybody should have, especially if you do LASIK and you do have optometrists. All right, Ron, you like talking about the pitfalls. Why don't you type in here and just talk about 5 common pitfalls?
Absolutely. So these translate into great takeaways for everybody who's on the webinar today. So you really want to make sure that I'll frame this in the context of the slide. I'm sorry. So a common pitfall would be not claiming or owning your listings. So those are your Google My Business listings. You do want to claim and own them all. You want to make sure that you have them complete. So, and not responding to reviews. And Evan was just mentioning this. So good reviews, bad reviews, you want to make sure that you're responding. You want to be careful when you respond, that you're not breaking any HIPAA guidelines, and make sure that you're controlling who is responding. So you don't necessarily want to have the physicians responding to online reviews, because they tend to get a little carried away with the information that they share. So another common pitfall would be to not create separate listings for each office where doctors are seeing patients. I hope this is crystal clear. If you have a doctor who's working in 2 different locations, then they need to have 2 different, completely separate Google My Business listings. Evan, we can see your, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I was just trying to address a question ahead of time, but okay.
Yeah, no problem. So make sure you have the listings. It does make it a little bit more complex, but it helps you dominate that local search, or at least win the local search when there's a patient looking for a new practice or new specialist. Another common pitfall would be basically to not use automated testimonials on bio pages. This is something that is done through Rater 8, but we would automatically put 5-star reviews with 100-character or more comments onto the bio page for the provider. And that translates to your bio page being advanced on a regular basis, and Google recognizes that, and you kind of earn search engine optimization points. So it's helpful. It's helpful to have those automated testimonials built into the bio pages for your providers. And another common pitfall is basically to focus on the location for the practice or the doctors in the practice, rather than focusing on both locations and doctors. You want to focus, they're both important. You want to have complete listings for both, and you want to build reviews for both. And with the primary reasoning being that you want to dominate and win the local search. Thanks, Evan. I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, so then the penultimate slide here, how do you build reviews? I discussed a little bit before. You want that automation. You don't want to have to manually set anything. The software should just run and do its thing. Nothing manual, and control should be in the practice's hands, not in the patient's hands. We love real time. It's not, I wouldn't say it's critical. It's very important. I mean, optimally, if you have a real-time interface with your practice management system, patient checks out. By the time they're in the parking lot, they have on their phone a review request. That just increases the response rates. Building reviews in parallel, Ron just mentioned that. And again, you want to be able to control, not the patient, where reviews are posted based on the quality, the quantity, and the recency of reviews. In the ones that are farthest, and set goals, right? So I might want 100 Google reviews and 4.8 stars average. You want to set those goals and then have an algorithm say, okay, which listings am I farthest away from my goals? And that's where I'm going to route the patient. So again, you don't have to think about it. So that's how Rater 8 views the review building world. And then the last slide here is just next steps. We'd love if you to schedule a scorecard review. Mark put that in the chat, and it takes 15 minutes, and I think you'd find it enlightening. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of like 101 here. Optimize your listings. Google's looking for complete listings, so gain control of them, optimize them. It's your homepage. It's your new homepage. You have 7.7 times more eyes on them than are on your core website pages. So you might as well invest time and money in making that look right and perfect that. And then build reviews. And of course, Rater 8 started as a patient satisfaction company. We're big on getting feedback, and we have a partnership with ASOA on the benchmarking side, where we offer benchmarking against other ASOA members, so you can see different areas of your practice and how you stand against your ASOA colleagues and peers. And we've had webinars, we've shown that, or we'd be happy to show you that separately. And also we have a spot at Ascris at the networking lounge. We have several, I think 6 or 9 sessions that we'll be doing demos, plus you could come over and visit us at our booth. To open it up to questions, and I'll start with a question someone typed in the chat, and this is a very common question. It says, we're looking to start texting our patients with "tell us how we're doing," with an opportunity to give us a 1 through 5 score. A 4 or 5 star rating will be taken to our Google business page to leave a review. The other patients will be welcome to leave a review thoughts on an innocuous internal review page that won't be detrimental to online. So what do you think of that methodology? So that's from Bradley. So that's a great question, Bradley. What you're describing is called review gating. And review gating is basically trying to route certain patients based on their feedback to the online review site, and certain patients do not route to the online review site. So we've looked at this issue from a million sides, and we've crunched so much data, and here's what we found. The first thing is, once you put up a gate, and by the way, review gating is frowned upon by the review sites, especially Google. It's their specific policy that says you shall not you shouldn't solicit or dissuade a patient from soliciting or posting an online review. So they state that in their policy, and you don't want to run afoul of that policy, because if they ever decided to crack down, your listings could disappear. But it's our view that you don't want to do that. The first thing is, when you ask a patient to provide a star rating and then feedback, and then they click something, and then they have to pick a review site, and they're off to that review site, and then you're asking for another star rating and more feedback at the other review site, we find that sharply decreases the number of reviews that you build, because patient's doing a lot of work. before they're even sent to that other review site. And we have a survey first, and we send patients to the review site, but we find when we skip over the survey and just send the patient right to the review site, we generate 3.5 times more reviews without asking the patient to do work first. So you generate a tremendous amount of reviews. I don't know what it is in your practice, Bradley, but we generate for ophthalmology about 12, 13 reviews per doctor per month. So if you have 10 doctors, it's 120 a month. That's almost 1,500 reviews a year. You'll also find, and here's some data, it's an orthopedics group, but the same story happens across the board with all our clients, whether it's orthopedics, ophthalmology, or any specialty. This shows the number of one-star reviews that a practice had before they went live with Radar 8, and that's that little red sliver. And they were getting 2 or 3 or 4 here, a quarter. And you can see the number of 5-star reviews. So they're getting a total of about 15, 20 reviews a quarter. They went live at the end of a quarter in 2019 here. So for the first 3 full quarters, you could see they jumped from a handful of reviews to 300 to 350, 375 reviews a quarter. And what do you notice? The number of 5-star reviews have shot up. The number of 1-star reviews actually stayed exactly the same. So what happens is patients 1-star, they're so unhappy, they're going to put that feedback anyway on Google. And if you make it real easy for the 5-star happy patients to post reviews, they will. And I'm like that. I'm happy with my doctor, whatever. If I'm really upset, I'll put something online. But if I'm really happy, whatever. But if I get something as one click and I'm on Google and I could post a review, I'll do it. So you want to make it as easy as possible. So what you'll find out with what you're doing, Brad, you're putting a cap, or you're reducing the number of 5-star reviews that are being posted, and the number of 1-star reviews is not changing, even though you think it is, right? Is changing. It's not. So what's happening overall, the overall star ratings by doing review gating is lower because there's less of those 5-star reviews. And we find for Radar 8, the average Google star review is 4.86. That's what you should expect as a practice. So we don't believe in gating. Google doesn't believe in it, and we think it's a better mousetrap, and you get better results without that. Long-winded question, long-winded answer, but it's something we've thought about for a long time and thought a lot about.
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it, Evan? Like it was so amazing when we learned that data to realize that you're going to hurt yourself by gating.
Correct.
So counterintuitive.
Any other questions today? We have a lot of people on. I'm open to questions. You could drop off if you want, but sometimes the questions and answers are the best. I have one really interesting tidbit. This is the best tip you'll get all day. A lot of people have to struggle getting Google to verify. They send postcards. It goes to a hospital location. It goes to a satellite office. The postcards disappear. So then you say, well, we could do phone. Google sometimes gives you an option to do phone verification. Then you say, well, we have a phone tree. That doesn't work. Jack, can you send me the number, the Google number? I'm going to put it in the chat. Google has a number that they do their phone verification from. And all you have to do is call your phone tree company, whoever does your phone tree, and say, this is the number. This is a number. When it comes in, instead of routing it to the phone tree, reroute it to my cell phone or my backline. So you're on with Google and you click phone verification, you click the button, literally within 5 seconds the phone rings, and 5 seconds later you own that listing. And I have the number here. I'm going to put it in the chat to everybody. So this is the number you could ask your phone company. That went to everybody? No, that's a direct message. How do I? Mark, I just gave it to you. If you could send it to everybody. So everybody will have that in a second. It's an easy to remember number. It has a whole bunch of 8s in it. Any other questions? Feel free to type in the Q&A or in the chat. Okay, I'll give Mark just another. Oh, so the number's there, 202-455-8888. Just jot it down. Give it to your marketing person. Might save the day one day. Okay, barring any other questions, we really appreciate your attending, and I know Ron and Mark and the rest of the Raider 8 team look forward to seeing everybody at Ascris in Las Vegas. I was just there. It was very hot. So bring some shorts to go out to dinner instead of those long pants. Have a great rest of the week, and safe travels if you're going to be in Las Vegas.
Thanks, everybody.